You're listening to the Archaeology Podcast Network.
You are now entering the Pseudo-Archaeology Podcast, a show that uncovers what's fact, what's fake, and what's fun in the crazy world of pseudo-archaeology. Hello and welcome to the Pseudo-Archaeology Podcast, episode 163, and I am your host, Dr. Andrew Kinkella, and tonight, The Fountain of Youth is a terrible movie. Really, that's it. Fountain of Youth. Sucked. All right. So, before I savage the movie Fountain of Youth, because that's just who I am, the savager of movies that aren't very good. And actually, by not very good, I mean terrible. There is an announcement, my friends, that I have to give right now. And that announcement is this. I, your humble host, Dr. Andrew Kinkella, is a television personality, a quote, TV personality. Why do I tell you this? Because I Googled myself, or rather my daughter Googled me. I was like, hey, Dad, you're a TV personality again. And what does she mean by again? Well, there was something really horrible that happened in my life recently, which is I Googled myself about a month ago. And I actually have to open up to you guys and tell you that I very rarely Google myself. It's actually true. I very rarely Google myself, but it did so happen about a month ago. I did. And me, Dr. Andrew Kinkella, was not a TV personality. I was a writer. Ugh, dude. What? A writer. I guess it was because of my textbook or something. But man, thank the gods I am back to TV personality. And as a little aside, why am I never an archaeologist? I've Googled myself on and off, for years, and it's good for any of us to do this just to sort of see every so often, how you look online. Dude, it never says archaeologist. I don't know, man. I guess I need to go back to school. Need to go back to college. So, but enough about me. And what I mean by that is it's never enough about me, but for the moment, I have another aspect of myself, which is how bad I hated the movie Fountain of Youth. Now, I'm not here to just browbeat movies to death. I'm not. And actually, underneath it all, I do have a bachelor's in film studies, right? And I made a student movie and I'm into movies. I've worked on many, many productions. And I'm always rooting for movies to succeed. Always. And I have a very open mind on movies, and I always hope that they succeed in any platform or in any way that they can, be that it's a cult classic or, hey, it's a popcorn movie that made a bunch of money, but it's not going to win any Oscars or any of that kind of stuff. I don't care. I think of it as, if I made this movie, would I be proud of it? And I always want to say yes. But with the movie Fountain of Youth, I got to give it a hard no. I found it to be shockingly bad. And what happened was it just came out. I think it's on Apple. Can't remember. Doesn't matter. You'll find it. It's so easy to find. It's one of those ones that's being sold everywhere. Look at me, Fountain of Youth. Such a great movie. I wanted to watch it because it's about archaeology, and it's something, whenever there's a movie that's about archaeology, even though it's sort of tongue-in-cheek adventure archaeology, I know that people are going to ask me about it. So I want to learn about it. I want to sort of get comfortable with it so I can talk reasonably, because I know people are going to ask. And a handful of minutes in, I was like, this is really terrible. And when I see movies with that big of a budget that are that terrible that early on, it makes me mad. I got angry. And what I did is I started to be pissed, and I reached over. There's a little coffee table in front of my couch where our TV is. And thankfully for all of us, there was a notepad and a pencil sitting right there. And I'm like, I'm going to take some notes. So I watched Fountain of Youth and I took notes, and I'm going to be going over my notes. And it's really just a long festival of anger. And what's funny is what you'll get off the top of this is the content. It's not the content that made me angry. It's not like that. As you guys know, I'm completely happy if a movie is about ancient aliens or about Atlantis or whatever. That can be creative and awesome. It's just when people try and say it really happened, that's when they're just full of shit, right? But if it's a creative movie about that kind of stuff, I got no problem with that. I got no problem with pseudo archaeology in the movie world, as long as you can tell it's a fantasy and it's fun and it's interesting, right? So the movie Fountain of Youth, I have nothing against that. It's going towards trying to find, of course, the Fountain of Youth, right? I have no problem with that. But what I do have a problem with is how they went about it, right? The overall construction of the movie and the tone of the movie, the overall vibe, the tone of the movie is just freaking god awful. I wrote a quick list of like descriptive terms as I watched the movie. A lot of times, colleges will ask me to write like 5 descriptive terms of a prospective student if I'm doing their letter recommendation, right? Here's my list of like 5 descriptive terms for this movie: jaded, cynical, unfunny, boring, and heartless. But barring that, it's great. No, friends, it's really that bad. And if you don't know what this is, The Fountain of Youth is a movie starring John Krasinski, right? He's the guy from The Office. Natalie Portman, you know her from Star Wars fame. They're the sort of the leads, the male and female leads, directed by Guy Ritchie, who, it's so funny, most of his movies, I realize I don't really care about that much. Although he did The Gentleman, it was a movie and then a TV series, which I liked the TV series. But I think that Guy Ritchie is just not to my taste. I wish him well. I hope he makes good movies. He didn't with this one. And then it was written by James Vanderbilt. Yes, of those Vanderbilts. And this guy wrote Zodiac, which is like one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time. Dude wrote Zodiac. He wrote a couple Spider-Mans, but then he writes this absolute utter turd. And that's part of the interest here. This is all top talent. Somebody like, I like John Krasinski. I like Natalie Portman, Domhnall Gleeson, the guy who plays the bad guy in the Star Wars movies, the redhead, guy who plays the sort of general. That guy is the bad guy in it. Guy Ritchie and James Vanderbilt, all of these people and the supporting cast too, these are quality, talented people, which is why it's that much more interesting and weird that this movie sucks so bad. It's not because of lack of talent. Again, of all these people, I like them all. Guy Ritchie just isn't my cup of tea, but I would never say the dude wasn't talented or something. But the rest of these guys are great. So how did they make a jaded, cynical, unfunny, boring, and heartless movie? Well, friends, let's get into it. The movie starts, I think, in Bangkok. Pretty sure it's Thailand. It's that kind of vibe, that sort of that Indonesian, sort of vibe. And it starts off with a bang, right? There's a motorcycle chase, that is like a scooter chase, which is ultimately going to turn into a train chase. This big, long, what is supposed to be exciting chase in the beginning. They're taking a page out of the James Bond script, right? Nothing wrong with that. We get that. It's an adventure movie. It's got to start off with a bang. Great. That's cool, but almost immediately they do this like conversation between John Krasinski, who we realize has a painting that's wrapped up in this like tube that he's carrying on the back of and he has as he's driving his scooter. And he's doing this back and forth cutesy dialogue with guys who are there to shoot and kill him. And right off, That is the tone that I frickin' hate. It's completely unbelievable. Looking at my notes, I literally wrote fucking unbelievable in like the first 5 minutes, right? You can't, you're not doing a tongue in cheek. If somebody was shooting at you, they're driving up to you and they're trying to box you in and they're trying to like grab you to get back something you're stolen and basically your life's on the line, you're not going to start with like some witty banter. And it just, that never changed the entire movie. That's its problem. That's its tone problem, right? Where they're having this witty banter during a high stakes moment that is just completely unbelievable and foolish and stupid and embarrassing. After he sort of gets out of this number one chase, and of course he, you know, gets away from these guys trying to catch him, he gets to his, he goes see and sees his sister Natalie Portman, who is working at a museum in London. He goes sees his sister, and this is weird, you guys, because they have witty banter too, and they're supposed to be brother and sister, but it's this weird flirtatious, like, oh, it's not, but I'm attracted to you, but I'm not, but we're just brother and sister. But we have horrible dialogue where it seems like we're doing our witty banter thing. Just freaking weird. It's like they're brother and sister. That is the first horrible mistake in this, is to make the two leads brother and sister. Terrible. Because, of course, though, there's going to be this pseudo love interest later, which then splits a singular female character kind of into two. And horrible choice. Horrible. Like, it's just empty, stupid dialogue. Then I think he steals another painting. Oh, see, I'm getting my paintings messed up. But he steals another painting out of his sister's museum, right? And he takes it, and she's pissed at him. She's running after him. How dare you do this to me? Steal this painting out of my museum. He takes it, and she, of course, then immediately follows him to what I call his honeycomb hideout. Now, most of you who are under the age of 90 will not know what I mean. When I was a kid, there were these series of commercials for honeycomb cereal. And they had this cliche they do every time of like the little kids who would eat this breakfast cereal, but they had this fort. And the fort was called their honeycomb hideout. And then they'd sing the honeycomb song. Any Gen Xers, if you remember, like, honeycomb's big. Yeah. It's not small. No. Right? That. This is the first of the tropes that I would say this movie, this overt trope, the use of the hideout, what I call the honeycomb hideout trope. So the secret hideout, right, where John Krasinski is, and he's got all his paintings there, and we realize that he has 6 paintings, and you need these 6 paintings because on the back of them, each of them has a clue, and you put it all together, and then you're going to find the, I almost said the Well of the Souls, the Fountain of Youth. I might as well say Well of Souls because it's all the same. They have, as you will see, ripped off Indiana Jones and National Treasure to the ends of the earth. So he's in his honeycomb hideout. And of course, his sister, Natalie Portman, follows him straight there, which is utterly idiotic because, of course, every police government official is going to follow Natalie Portman. And then they find his brother and they find the whole thing. Before the cops all break in and, you know, all that kind of stuff, following them to their honeycomb hideout, we figure out that there's this rich guy. This is the Domhnall Gleeson character who says he has like incurable cancer, I think, and he needs to find the Fountain of Youth. He has just never ending wealth, and he's going to use it, that they can use it, and through him, they can go on an adventure and ultimately find the Fountain of Youth. So now we know, right? It's like the first act is done and we're off. When we come back, we continue with the travesty of the Fountain of Youth. Hello, and welcome back to the Pseudo-Archaeology Podcast, episode 163. I'm your host, Dr. Andrew Kinkella, and I have been getting my anger and sadness out, vomiting it out onto you, dear listeners, about my just severe bumitude about the movie Fountain of Youth. And so we've set it up, and we've now are at the point where it's like, okay, they're going on a journey to find the Fountain of Youth. We have all our characters, and here we go. The first place they go is they realize that the painting they actually need is on the Lusitania, which sunk in 1915, I think. And then they're just going to raise the Lusitania. The Lusitania is like the sister ship of the Titanic. It's another one of those huge ships. And this, like, they just raise it. They're like, oh, time to raise the Lusitania. And then you're just supposed to think, well, since this guy has lots of money, okay, we're going to raise it. So they physically raise the Lusitania. Now, this strains for me credibility, even for a movie like this, which is supposed to be kind of fun and over the top. But still, you're like, really? I think the whole movie could have rotated around just trying to like get to the Lusitania or something. That could have been a major thing. It would have been fascinating. It has this backstory. And of course, James Vanderbilt, who wrote the screenplay. You'll never guess who died on the Lusitania. One of the Vanderbilts, which could have been, you know, again, interesting in its own way. I think it was kind of thrown away a little bit. Oh, also by this time, we realized that one of the bad guys is, of course, a very sexy woman that John Krasinski is into. And he also has some very weak, sad, embarrassing patter with her, you know, earlier on. So she's chasing him. They get to the Lusitania. Of course, John and his sister wife, Natalie Portman, they get the correct painting. And then the sexy woman is there to get the painting back. And then another tired trope. All of a sudden, Natalie Portman is, of course, a kung fu master. What I like to call the kung fu master trope. Now, it's not necessarily kung fu. What I mean by that is like characters all of a sudden are crazy, awesome martial artists. And it's like a bunch of people in this movie are crazy, awesome martial artists. And you're like, what? Oh, okay. So John Krasinski, Natalie Portman, a sexy bad woman, they're all like kung fu masters. And then they fight. Like, and you know, that's something that like Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones is more believable. One of the many reasons is the fight scenes are more just sort of punching back and forth. Like you could see yourself not in that situation, but in a fight that goes that way. Maybe some of us as children, myself included, were part of fights where you threw a couple punches, right? It wasn't like all of a sudden Matrix Kung Fu. So anyway, we have that. And we start to realize that John Krasinski and Natalie Portman's dad was a famous archaeologist and saying it wasn't all about the money. Yeah. We also learn that Natalie Portman is divorcing her husband. And then all of a sudden her husband, because I think Domhnall Gleeson is paying him to move, is like, by the way, Natalie Portman, you need to take the kids. I'm moving to Japan, which is completely weird because if you're in a divorce, you're not going to want to all of a sudden just move to Japan. Okay, yeah, I get it. You're getting paid money or something, but it played so weird to me. I was weird. A terrible, odd plot device. It's like, why are you having her being divorced with a divorced husband and kid in the first place? Like, which will of course have to deal with the kid, but why not just say the dad's dead? It's just, this is one of the many things this movie does. It's so awful, right? It's like you're adding extraneous bullshit, waste of time scenes. What? Weird. And I don't know, man. What am I doing? What is this? I'm looking at my notes. I just vaguely wrote, I'm mad at one point. Oh, and then I wrote back to Honeycomb Hideout. Yeah, and then they go back to the Honeycomb Hideout. They get found out, of course. Oh, yeah. There's another time when they're back at the Honeycomb Hideout where all these guns are drawn. It's super tense. And of course, because it's this movie, they pause for some witty banter. Great. Let's pause for witty banter. Damn it. It's supposed to be tense. And this, too, is the first time in my notes where I write, why don't they just shoot them? This literally happens, you guys, at least 4 times in this movie, if not more. For like crucial scenes where it's like, just shoot them. Just shoot them. Both sides. As soon as you have the other guy, just shoot them. Shoot them in the head. Move along. Like they don't, though. They pause and they witty banter, and then the good guys get away. Oh, shocking. That is one of the most unbelievable getaways. That's another thing they do. I don't even know if it's on my list of terrible tropes, but the unbelievable getaway. And, you know, I think if you asked the writer or the director, if you asked like Guy Ritchie or whatever, like, why, what are you doing? Like, why you have this unbelievable getaway? What is this bullshit? I think they would probably say some high and mighty thing like, well, you see, we're having fun with the genre. We're playing with the genre. We're playing with your expectations. Oh, fuck that. Like, it's just, no, you made a shit movie. You didn't play with you played with my expectations by not making them come true and making it unsatisfying. Oh, but I guess I'm just too stupid to understand. I'm not artistic enough. Right. You guys get this. You know, this world starts to do this bullshit. Oh, God. I made another note to myself. Up and coming filmmakers, young people, don't do this. Young people, you should definitely watch this movie because it will. And I don't mean this actually as a joke. It'll teach you exactly what not to do. Like, don't do this. Don't do this tongue in cheek, horrible tone, wrong for the movie thing. Like, don't do this. Don't partake in this like dishonest, heartless. That's a huge part of it, right? I listed that at the top. There's no heart in this movie where something like Indiana Jones has total heart. And like so many, the James Bond movies, they have heart. You smile, you laugh, you go along with the ride. You guys, I never smiled or laughed through this entire movie, except right near the end where they did something so stupid. I actually laughed. Horrible, horrible. It's like they try and be like, oh, look, we're so cool. Like, oh, look, we're so cool. We're subverting your expectations. But all it is like anti-joy, destroyer of wonder. And just this idea that, hey, man, it's all a joke. And if you don't get it, you're stupid because we're the smart ones. Right. It's that same tone. Another movie that Domhnall Gleeson was in, Star Wars 8, The Last Jedi. Right. Horrible, horrible, intellectual property destroying, horrible movie. Same thing. It was the same idea of this tone, this idea of like, oh, everything's a joke. Oh, ha, ha, ha. Look, we subverted your expectation. I don't know what they were doing. Now at this point in the movie, and again, they're getting trapped. They're getting away. They're getting trapped. They're getting away, all trying to go find the Fountain of Youth. John Krasinski has like a bad dream and it's serious. And you see, oh, Natalie Portman's looking really old. And so all of a sudden we're supposed to care for John Krasinski. And that's another major problem. You don't care for any of the characters, right? They are just, you don't give a damn. If they die, you're like, well, too bad. They get on this private plane, which was weird. Just all of a sudden they're on a private plane. You're like, okay. And then, of course, they're joking. And I think Natalie Portman at one point, I think she's talking about her husband or talking about a boyfriend. I can't remember. She says he has all the characteristics of a dog. And then John Krasinski goes, you mean he can lick his own? And then they hold for laughter that never comes. It's like, that joke is stupid. It's disgusting. who is this movie for? Like, oh, am I supposed to bring children to this? I'm not going to. This movie is for nobody. You guys, it's for nobody. Like, there is no audience who is going to be satisfied by this. They're just going to be pissed like me or bored. So, yeah, I don't get this. And in the beginning, Natalie Portman, you cared maybe about Natalie Portman because she was kind of the straight man where all this craziness is going on. She's like, come on, guys. No, stop. This is stupid. Don't do this. Right. You go along with Natalie Portman. Then on the plane, she does a 180 and is like, oh, yeah. Like she starts drinking and is like, oh, I just missed these adventures. So Natalie Portman's own character throws away herself of the first half of the movie. Just freaking god awful. God damn. Yeah, I have underlined unlikable characters. They're all unlikable. Just with the constant unfunny barbs. What? Okay. Oh, right. And their next place. So now they got to go to a library because they need to get what's called the Wicked Bible. And in the Wicked Bible, it tells you, see, I forgot another aspect of a terrible movie. You just forget plot points because they're just pointless. So they let in this guy, John Krasinski, and who's got to be wanted by Interpol and the world and everything. They just let him in, though, to the rare books section of this ancient library. Just let him in because of the donation by the rich guy. But what? Like, I was taken aback just as I'm watching. I'm like, wait, this guy's like a criminal. You're not going to let him in, right? And then when shockingly, he ultimately steals the Wicked Bible. He's a thief. And you let him into the place and then he stole it. There's no surprise there. It's just dumb. And then he's whispering to himself, talking about the sexy bad woman. And he says, where is that vicious bitch? Really? Where is that vicious bitch? Would you whisper that to yourself for someone who you like, someone you were interested in, when you're sort of sneaking around, you're wondering where she is? You would never do that. You would never say that. It's gross, right? And I know in the grand scheme of things, that's not a truly horrible line. It's just gross, right? You're not going to say that about somebody you're interested in. Ugh. Oh, and then they have Kung Fu battle, of course, in the library, which is a zero stakes battle because they are having their witty banter throughout. And it's like, again, why not just shoot him? Or why not just shoot her? No, but it's weird, you guys. It's like they have this guns and knives battle where you could die. You could die at any second from this trained killer. But you know they're not going to because they're witty bantering through it. I have rarely seen this to this degree, a true zero stakes battle, which makes it utterly boring and a waste of time. And they do this several times throughout the movie. It's like, oh, if you liked your zero stakes battle once, let's have a zero stakes battle 4 times. Oh, why not just shoot him? So they get the Bible, and actually outside while this is happening, the rich guy's with the kid, and the rich guy, you note for a second, is also a Kung Fu master. You're like, what? He does some little moves. You're like, the nerdy cancer victim guy is a Kung Fu master. Oh, it also tells you like, oh, he's going to turn. He's the true bad guy. Okay, I get it. And I have to tell you guys, I'm stupid when it comes towards seeing like hidden things in movies and stuff. Yes, I have my degree, but I'm I enjoy movies and I'm always the last to figure stuff out. I'm slow. And I got that one, which means it's terrible. The other trope of the terrible tropes, how many are we up to? 4? I don't know. The genius child trope where he's gonna figure stuff out. Oh god, the genius, like uncomfortable in social situations kid. Okay, when we return, the final bits of this movie. Well, hello and welcome back to the Pseudo Archaeology Podcast, episode 163. And this is the last part where I'm discussing the last bits and bobs of the horrible, horrible movie, The Fountain of Youth. When I last left you, we had just realized that we were using yet another terrible trope of the genius kid who's going to crack the codes and stuff. There was a little bit here, too. Right before they leave, they figure out that they have to go to the Great Pyramid. The Fountain of Youth is going to be underneath the Great Pyramid. Okay, whatever. But two things happen. First, all the main characters are discussing this really important thing, like in this hotel room, right? They all come in to like discuss their final plan. And the doors open behind them the whole time. This is a small thing, but it really bugged me. I was like, is anybody closing the door? Is there like a hallway out there? Like, can anyone just walk by and hear their plans? Close the door. Like, it was so, I'm like, was there a dear Guy Ritchie, have the last person in close the door if it's a scene about talking about secret plans. I know I'm not a director. So that was weird. And then as they're en route to the Great Pyramid, where they're going to have their climactic final battle, the sexy woman villain is hanging out with Stanley Tucci for a moment. And Stanley Tucci comes, they're having this talk, and of course we're figuring out that the sexy bad woman is really someone who's there to protect the location of the Fountain of Youth. It's exactly like Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, right? It's so much of this is just a ripoff of Last Crusade and also Raiders of the Lost Ark. They rip off parts, which they shouldn't have done, because those movies are so iconic that most moviegoers are just going to be like, oh, it was so close. Anyway, Stanley Tucci's there looking like Stanley Tucci. I'm like, dress him in something else. He looks like he just walked off the set of any of the other movies we know him from. So I swear to God, watching it, I wanted to blurt out loud, hey, Stanley Tucci, how's it going? He talked like Stanley Tucci. He interacted like he had his same glasses he always wears. I'm like, that's not a character. It's Stanley Tucci. And he's basically like, hey, you need to protect the Fountain of Youth location. And she's like, okay. So John Krasinski and crew get to the Great Pyramids. They have an archaeology guy, like sort of a Zahi Hawass clown, show him around. Now, I told you guys at the top of this that I wasn't angry that much with the content, but here's where I'm going to renege a little. And I will say I am tired of the stupid trope of where the like rich guy and John Krasinski, the looter, they know all this secret stuff about the pyramids, but the archaeologist doesn't, right? Oh, big archaeology. They just don't know. It's all the weirdos and criminals who know. Ugh. So that I didn't think that needed to happen. It's such a cliche. I would have left it out, but whatever. So they have to find the secret way in. They do. Then, of course, as John Krasinski and co are finding the Fountain of Youth outside, there's like a shootout, but you don't really know what side to belong to, because it's like, okay, the cops are after him, but then the like bad guys are after him, and then they change allegiances. It's really weird, you guys. It's really odd. And it's because they just have they're spinning too many plates. So, and then another thing that I am a little bummed about, the mythology that they use in there has nothing really to do with Egyptology. They bring in some kind of tree of life stuff that's almost kind of ancient Maya-ish, some weird pseudo god thing. I'm like, you didn't have to do that. You could have just stuck something on to real Egyptian mythology. It would have been fine. I don't know why. Oh, another thing that really bummed me out, in order to get down to the Fountain of Youth, they used sound waves. That thing that I think Graham Hancock is a fan of this. And the idea that and other pseudo-archaeologists, the idea that you can have sound waves used to move the stones. Like, oh, the pyramids were made, the blocks were stacked using sound waves. It's like stupid, idiotic pseudo-archaeology that is incorporated into the movie. And of course, the genius kid who's into music figures it out, and he plays the right tune that moves the block. So as they go down, then they go down and they come across this super huge, deep cavern, super deep. And at the bottom is, of course, the Fountain of Youth. Super deep. But then a huge amount of stairs come out of the side. And I just found that to be unbelievable. Why do this? Why make it this huge cavern that's all of a sudden now we're, again, this tone thing, and their tone's already terrible. But why are you now making it even more unrealistic? What are the mechanisms that make all those stairs come out? It's the stairs that go down seemingly for like a mile. Then while they're down there, of course, they get ultimately to the Fountain of Youth. And then while outside and inside, I think, they're engaged in a next horrible trope, which is what I call the Stormtrooper gun battle, where they shoot a billion bullets and nobody gets hit. They've been doing this throughout the entire movie, but near the end, this is the worst one. They just have, it's like, they have like rocket launchers practically. They have all this artillery. Nobody's getting hit. It's like, what? Everyone would be dead in like 1 second. It's just, what? Then, of course, the rich guy is shown to be the bad guy, and he doesn't have cancer, and he's done this whole thing in order to get the Fountain of Youth and get it for himself for power and be able to sell it and, be king of the world kind of thing. And of course, and then they shoot John Krasinski, so he has to heal himself first, a straight rip off of Last Crusade. So it's just too close. Just too close. This is horrible. Like, I've seen this before done way better. And John Krasinski does it, but he denies drinking it because he realizes they have these, sayings. Oh, if it takes, it gives, or if it gives, it takes, or whatever. That's probably another stupid trope, horrible platitude. And then they have a bunch of way slow special effects where, of course, the bad guy does drink. And then he ages way too fast. But in his fastness, it's super slow, where he like rises above the water and he spins around a few times. And it's like, that's the place where I laughed. Like my laugh of like, oh my God, this is so stupid. Because the special effects were taking so long. He's spinning. There's like lightning bolts and the water is spinning. And then they cut back to some reaction shots and they cut back and he's like still spinning slow. And then on top of all this, Stanley Tucci comes in with narration. So he's not there, but all of a sudden Stanley Tucci is like telling us what's going on. Because it's so weird. We basically get it, but he's like, hey, the sexy bad girl was there to protect the location. He's like telling us another horrible trope, overdone expository narration. And it's weird. It's like, oh, hey, Stanley Tucci. Thanks, man. So the guy dies. And then they have to run out of the Fountain of Youth before it like closes. Of course, the stairs are going in and they got to get to the top. And then they get out and the bad guy's dead. And all the guys have stopped shooting outside. I guess they've like, I don't know. They like shook hands. I don't know. And then the John Krasinski sees the sexy bad girl. And then they have some witty banter that goes nowhere. And she just basically kind of says, hey, if you ever do this again, I'll be out there to stop you. And he's like, oh, really? She's like, oh, yeah, really. And then she just walks away. So you have no love story that ever goes anywhere. It's unbelievable and weird. John Krasinski is left with his sister wife, Natalie Portman. And they're just like, they kind of are like, well, on to our next adventure, otherwise known as on to your next pointless, horribly toned, unfunny, cynical waste of time. And I just want to end this diatribe by just saying, dear Hollywood, stop this. Stop making this worthless bullshit. It's, you guys, I think I don't do this. I do this like once a decade. I'm not kidding. I think Fountain of Youth goes on to my list of top 5 worst movies ever made. And that's a tough list to get onto. And with that, I'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks for listening to the Pseudo Archaeology Podcast. Please like and subscribe wherever you like and subscribe. And if you have questions for me, Dr. Andrew Kinkella, feel free to reach out using the links below or go to my YouTube channel, Kinkella Teaches Archaeology. See you guys next time.
The Archaeology Podcast Network is 10 years old this year. Our executive producer is Ashley Airy, our social media coordinator is Matilda Siebrecht, and our chief editor is Rachel Roden. The Archaeology Podcast Network was co-founded by Chris Webster and Tristan Boyle in 2014 and is part of Culturo Media and DigTech LLC.
This has been a presentation of the Archaeology Podcast Network. Visit us on the web for show notes and other podcasts at www.archpodnet.com. Contact us at chris@archaeologypodcastnetwork.com.